Portuguese Empire is laughing at Nzinga. Why? Let's take a look. Because standing in front of them is just a woman, and after a while, that woman will use a human being as a chair. How is that possible? Pay attention to this part. The year is 1622, and the Portuguese governor wants to humiliate Nzinga Mbande. She is not given a seat to sit on. A sudden silence falls over the room. Nzinga signals with her hand and calls her servant. The man kneels, and Nzinga sits on his back, without even breaking eye contact for a single second. And everyone in that room is thinking the same thing. This meeting is not just diplomacy. It is a test of power, and Portugal has just failed that test. First, let's look at the horrifying picture. At that time, in West Africa, Portuguese ships were arriving along the coast. Armed men were quietly entering villages, trying to chain people and take them away. Mothers were hiding their children deep in the forests at night. Some even covered their children's mouths with their hands, because the harsh truth was this: even the smallest sound could mean an entire village being wiped out. Nzinga knew this, and after every raided village, the same scene remained. Silence, empty houses, missing people, and in that moment, she made a decision. If she could not stop the Portuguese, her people would slowly be erased. Nzinga's war tactics, let's see how you interpret them. She didn't choose the battlefield, she designed it, because the strength of the Portuguese lay in open ground. So she drew them into the forest, and this is where the real move was hidden. Every night, she ordered fires to be lit at different points across the woods. The Portuguese forces believed they were facing a massive army. But the truth was simple. They were only chasing shadows. And then came the moment of attack. In a narrow pass, under heavy rain. At the moment, visibility dropped to zero. A Portuguese unit followed Nzinga. The plan was working, and then the forest swallowed them. Fog fell. Orientation was lost. At that moment, machetes and spears were flying everywhere. Soldiers mistook each other for the enemy. It was dark. No one could see anyone. By morning, the unit was gone. Only scattered armor and silence remained. In the prepared report, there was just one sentence: "This forest is not ours." From that day on, Nzinga's name changed. The Ghost Queen. The most critical point, in my view, was not what happened on the battlefield. The real impact was hidden in the maps. Portuguese trade routes began to collapse. Villages could no longer be taxed. Gold and human flow came to a halt. Every lost convoy meant fewer resources reaching Lisbon. For the empire, this was bleeding. Armies could win battles, but when the economy collapses, the war is already over. Nzinga understood this very well. The moment for precision had arrived. Not the armies, but the system itself was the target. What once seemed impossible had been achieved. Portugal was back at the negotiating table, but this time, the conditions were different. The woman they once humiliated now had her terms on the table. This was not just diplomacy. It was a document of retreat. And the most interesting part was this: Portugal didn't stop because it was defeated. It stopped because it could no longer afford the war. Pay attention here. The war drags on. Years pass, commanders change, kings die. Nzinga does not change. At this point, it was no longer about victory. It was about endurance, and she endured until the age of 80, not by clinging to power, but by carrying it without breaking. Portugal wanted to make her kneel, but even time itself could not break her resistance. Today, her name is rarely mentioned in many places, but history remembers what truly matters. Empires are built by winning wars. Nzinga won by exhausting an empire, and that is why Portugal never forgot her. Because some people cannot be conquered, they can only be delayed. And if history only tells you about kings, you are listening to the wrong story.